Hi there, Mark here again. I'm sorry about that, guys. That's a bit of a poor intro, but anyway, it makes a change, doesn't it? Today I want to talk about the wild one. Obviously you probably know the reason why I want to talk about this and give it a bit of a review to see if I think you should buy one, is because this is a re-re 2011, I think it is, or is it? I'll put it on the screen if it's not. And it's just been re-released again. And you probably also know that there's a limited edition version of this, the Jun Watanabe, I think it's called, and that's a Blockhead Motors version, which is a different colour scheme, different wheels and stickers. Well, I think that's the only difference. And I think the cheapest I've seen them on the re-releases is about $170 for this version, car only, no electronics, and I think it's about $220, so it's another £50, 50 quid for the Watanabe Blockhead version. And I'm not really sure whether it's worth the money, apart from the fact that it's probably going to be a bit collectible. Like I say, I think the only differences are you get a pre-painted body with a different sticker set, and you get some silver plated parts which include the wheels, and I think these side covers or sidebars are also in a different colour. But anyway, what I'll do is I'll move the camera above and we'll go over the car, and I'll tell you what I think about it, the good points and the bad points. Okay then, so first of all, the looks. What do I think about the looks? Well, I've got to say, I think it's one of them love it or hate it ones, and I've got to say, I love this. It's a real kind of 60s, 70s throwback to the old beach buggies that used to be around in the day. They used to have mainly Volkswagen flat 4 air-cooled engine in the back. Again, like the buggy, reproduces that fact that it's rear-wheel drive. And the main chassis of those buggies was a kind of tubular steel frame, and this kind of replicates that with the frame rails there. This has actually got a kind of monocoque plastic chassis at the bottom, and the frame rails bolt on the top, and they hold the engine on at the back. As I said, I do love these retro looks. The headlamps stuck on the top there of the body, that's really cool. They're like long flat bonnet. We've got the good old Tamiya bumper on the front, and as you can see, unusual for kind of lower level Tamiyas, we've got these aluminium shocks which come standard, and you've got these aluminium shock mounts at the front. Now these aluminium shocks are oil filled. You've got a kind of conventional one at the front. You can see at the back it's rather different. You've got a spring at the bottom only, if you can see that there. It doesn't go, the coil doesn't go around the actual shock body itself, but it does work quite well, I've got to say. But one thing with these shocks is I've found that they don't like holding the oil in for very long, so you need to keep topping them up or changing the oil every few runs. When you've got the oil in, you can see, I think I've just recently overhauled this, gone over it, and I've put new oil in there, so you can see the front, the damping's really pretty good. On the back it's a lot firmer, but you can see the damping there. And yeah, it works quite well. If I just drop the back, you can see that damping's fine, but at the front you might see it bounces, and that's because there's no weight at the front whatsoever. So when you're driving this thing, it's most of the time got the front wheels off the ground, which makes it difficult to steer, but again, that all adds to the fun of driving it. So yeah, those are the shocks. You get a standard silver can motor, which, as you know, isn't that quick, but you do get with it 2 pinion gears. I think it's a 16 and an 18, something like that. I put the smaller pinion in this to try and give it a bit more acceleration and a bit more punch and a few more wheelies, and I really like that. The fact that it's not that fast at top speed, I'm not really bothered. If you take something like this stock out to a great big open field or a big car park, you're soon going to get pretty bored with it whizzing up and down, because it probably only goes about 16, 17 mile an hour, something like that. But if you get it on some rough terrain and throw it around a little course, even better if you've got a friend to run with, then yeah, it's a great little buggy to run. It really is fun. And I've got to say, you've probably seen in my hobby room here, I come down now and again and think, right, what shall I take out to the park for a bit of a play? And I kind of get drawn to this one really often. So that really says it all for me. The fact that I will choose this above a lot of my other cars, because it's just the fun factor. The thing, it looks great when it's bombing round. It's quite hilarious, some of the antics it gets into with its wheels in the air and cocked sideways and so on. So yeah, tons of fun is what I can say with the handling. The back end digs in pretty well. The stock tyres, I like those. They do grip quite nicely. The front ones, like I say, there isn't much tread on them anyway, and most of the time they're in the air, so you will find it difficult to steer at times. And when you do steer, you're steering from the back with the back spinning round in the dirt if you're lucky enough. And one of the other things I do like about this being a Tamiya buggy is the driver figure you get with it. He's quite detailed. There's a decent helmet in there, although that helmet, I've got to say, is almost impossible to get paint to stick to, so I just left it red. But it is difficult to paint. It's a kind of a nylon, which I think is similar to this chassis. But the rest of the body figure itself is made of polycarbonate. You can paint that from the inside if you want. I painted mine on the outside, so it's got kind of a matte effect to it, which I think looks quite good. But yeah, I think he's a real bonus there. It looks a bit strange when you've got a buggy with no driver in it, especially when you can see the cockpit or the driver position quite openly like that. Going back to the suspension, this is real kind of old school. I think these are called trailing arm suspension. The front and the back, you can see the pivot at the front, and the wheel moves up and down behind it in a radius, as you can see. And the back is exactly the same design. And I think this is similar to a lot of the cars back in the day that it mimics. So that's pretty authentic, really. And I've got to say, overall, I think it works pretty well. It's not quite as good as double wishbone, but at least when the wheel moves up and down, it stays in the same upright position and doesn't move sideways, if you know what I mean. So the camber of the wheels always stays constant, which does help with the handling. On top of that, this suspension, I've got to say, there's a great big metal bar in the front here that's the pivot for the front. It's pretty tough. I've used this quite a lot over the last year or so, and it's had a few hard knocks, I can tell you, and it's landed some pretty big jumps. And the suspension, yeah, it's taken all that I've thrown at it, and comes back for more. So yeah, I can put a big thumbs up for the suspension. So what are the downsides? Well, like I said, the first one is the fact that the shocks, I can't get them to keep oiling. I'm sure there's somebody out there that's got a trick or a tip that can tell you how to get the oil to stay in, but I think it just kind of dribbles out even when you're not running it, to be honest with you. So that's the first thing. Second thing is the steering arms, as you can see here. They are so thin. The wire that they're made of, well, I say it's wire, it's not like a steel bar, it's like a piece of wire. And I haven't bent mine, but I know Rob Brennan, he's got one too, and he's bent his a couple of times. So hard knock to the side, I think you could quite easily bend those. Again, quite a simple upgrade, but not really very good out the box in my mind. It's a bit of a weak part, really, that. The other thing I've had go wrong with it is the drive shafts. I've had the drive shafts pop out a couple of times when running on really rough ground, and I think it's popped out, and they've popped out of those rubber drive cups or drive covers, and I think there's a couple of tears in there now. So yeah, watch out for those. But fortunately, because they're in those covers, I haven't actually lost the dog bones that are in there. So yeah, but while I'm mentioning that, plus point is they are metal dog bones, metal output cups, and they're metal wheel axles in there as well. But it doesn't come with ball bearings, so even though, yeah, it's, you know, for a buggy, it's getting on in price really, especially the new Blockhead Motors release, and it doesn't come with the ball bearings, so I have put those in there. But again, not essential, but again, if you want a bit of longer life out of those and a bit more maintenance free running, then you're worth putting the ball bearings in to start with if you can. And the last thing that I'll say, I think might be a bit of a downside, is the battery tray. This is a piece of FRP. obviously it's quite strong and light, but you can see the wear on it there, and it does tend to rub onto the battery cases and cut away at the soft plastic cases if you've got them. So yeah, I think that's a bit of a negative. Plus the battery tray itself is pretty small. I've got the one LiPo you might have seen, and it doesn't fit in there. So I'm stuck with the nickel metal hydrides in this one, which do fit perfectly, of course, the 6 cells, because that's what it was designed for. But as Pete Wylie will tell you, you have to poke your wire out the side and then round and into the plug which comes out the cockpit there, which really is quite unsightly. I think Pete's got a workaround. If you look on one of his videos for his fast attack, I think you can reroute the wires by making a hole in the body, but as standard, like I say, the wire comes right round there, and it flaps around and it looks a bit unsightly. Kind of spoils the look a little bit, I think. And the last little niggle I've got is the body here. These side parts, you can see they're held on by a metal bracket. I'll just pull it out there, you can probably see that metal bracket. These do come out while you're running as well, so you'll find this thing flapping around quite often when the going gets rough. It's quite easy to clip back in again, but it is a bit of a pain. Okay then, having said all that, would I recommend this? Absolutely yes. If you haven't got one, and you get a chance to order one of the new Riris, or even that Watanabe version, the Blockhead version, then my recommendation would be go for it if you can. For the money, it's one of the best fun per pound, or fun per book, fun per euro buggy that I've got. So yeah, the main thing I can say is this thing will put a smile on your face, and I think that's really all you can ask for really in a Tamiya buggy. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed watching that. Bore you, and hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Cheers, bye. Oh, and you ain't seen me, right?